Guys, we are back. Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. As always, it is so great to see you. Friends, today we're going to be talking about this camera right here. Last week it was the R6. This week is the R5. And it's been about 6 months since I picked this sucker up. And you may recall, back when I had it for about a month, I proclaimed that this was the best photography camera that I had ever used. And guys, I can say that, or I still think that today. Now, the specs and features of this camera are widely known. It's a 45 megapixel sensor, 8K video, incredible autofocus, and so forth. But aside from those technical specs, what do you need to know about this camera before you commit to buying one of these things? Now, we're gonna get into those pros and cons in just a minute about this camera. But before, I wanna thank you for taking the time and watching in or tuning in today. My team and I work really hard to present content that we think is going to be useful for you, and I hope those of you that are considering buying an R5 will find information here beneficial as you get closer to making that decision. Now, if by the end of this video you've learned something new or you were mildly entertained, I'd love it if you'd hit that like button down below. You see, hitting that like button, obviously, it just takes a moment, but it is super helpful for the channel. Besides, we review which videos get the most likes to help us determine which content to create next. So if you want to see more videos like this, hit that like button down below. Now, pull up a seat and let's go. The RF lenses are absolutely incredible. And I know this is technically not about the R5, but I have to mention the RF lenses as being one of the best things about the R5, and technically the R6 for that matter. Now, I have a host of RF lenses and I often get asked which one is my favorite. And if you saw the recent video on the R6, we spoke about this exact same question as well. You may recall on the R6, I said the 2870 was my favorite lens on the R6. Why is that? Because the 2870 is a badass lens for shooting video. Now, I got involved in photography as a landscape. I just love landscape photography. And I spoke about this, I believe, in the R6 video as well. The 1535 was the original lens that got me to move over to Canon to begin with. This is such an amazing landscape lens. It's super wide. You have a 35mm to get in close. So the 1535 is the lens that I have on this camera probably 98% of the time. It's that awesome. Now, as many of you know, I came to Canon after being a Nikon shooter for a very long time. And guys, I've dabbled with Sony and Panasonic as well, but I never had owned a Canon camera until I got the EOS R. And as you probably recall, the EOS R had that multi-function bar thing on the back of it. That really ticked off a lot of people. Honestly, it never really bothered me. But Canon got so much negative feedback about that they ditched it with the R5 and replaced it with a more traditional joystick. And I have to say that now that I have the R5, the joystick is a much better option than the multifunction bar that they had on the back of it there. At any rate, with the EOS R and now with my R5 and for that matter my R6, I set up the controls to mimic my Nikon cameras. So I set up the front customizable button to adjust my aperture, the back button to adjust my shutter speed, and of course the wheel down here to adjust my ISO. Now, I also use the back button focus on the R5. In fact, I have the exact same setup on my R6 as well. Now, obviously, guys, you don't need to set up your controls like this, but this is what works well for me, and you can customize it however is going to work best with your workflow. Finally, a stabilized R camera. Guys, one of the things that I did not like about the EOS R was it lacked stabilization. But with the R5, Canon implemented a 5-axis image stabilization, and friend, it works beautifully. This is especially true when you use it with a stabilized RF lens with the R5. So you can get up to 8 stops. Yeah, 8 stops of stabilization. Lenses, include like the 24-70 2.8, the 70-200 2.8, among several others. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about the EOS R is that the microphone port was in a terrible location. Now, I always have some sort of external mic plugged into my camera, whether it's a Rode Wireless Go or the Rode Wireless Mic NTG or something in between. Now, on the EOS R, the mic port was right here, smack right in the center here. So the microphone dangled right in front of the LCD when it was facing forward. Now, obviously I could still see myself on the screen because the cord didn't completely obscure the LCD, but it was still annoying. Well, evidently Canon got a lot of that same feedback because they moved the mic port up on the R5 and the R6. Now the cord is out of the way, so you can get an unobstructed view of the LCD when you are facing in front of it. Now, this was a minor complaint about the EOS R, but I really appreciate the fact that Canon listened to the feedback and made the change on the R5 and the R6. Now, there are legitimately very few things that I dislike about the R5, but one of them that immediately comes to mind is the video files are so difficult to edit because, man, they are super heavy. Now, when you're recording 4K 30, which is what I shoot most of the time, in C-Log, the video files just have so much data, and all that data really taxes the hell out of my computer, which is it's an early 2000 fully spec'd MacBook Pro, which means rendering these video files can sometimes take quite a bit of time. Now, of course, when my computer is taxed, the fans come on, and guys, if you know me, this is like nails on a chalkboard for me. It is beyond annoying. So one of the things I actually did as well, I'm running a Razer eGPU, and I also just upgraded the video card that I have in that, which is the AMD Radeon Pro WX 9100. So it's a 16 gig beast of a video card that I'm now running when I'm editing these videos. But look, I don't mean to complain because being able to shoot such high quality video is definitely a bonus for me, and for that matter, you guys as well. But the consequences of the quality is that the R5 video files require a lot of heavy lifting to be able to edit. I seldom use more than one card slot, but what I really like about the EOS R is that it has one CF Express slot and one SD card slot. So boom and boom. Again, the dual card slots was a change that Canon made after it took so much heat for the single card slot in the EOS R. But like I said many times in the past, the single card slot wasn't a huge disappointment for me when I had the EOS R, but now that I have the R5, definitely, I definitely appreciate the opportunity to use two cards and two different kinds of cards if need be. Now, one of the best features of this camera by far is the face and eye detection. Now, when the R5 first was announced, Canon, of course, was patting itself on the back for the autofocus system that they put together here. It was easy to doubt whether or not this thing would actually be as good as they claimed. But trust me, it is every bit as good as Canon said it would be. It works great for humans and animals, and it is accurate whether the subject is moving or it's still. It has an uncanny ability to pick the face or the eyes and focus on them in an instant. This is true even if a person's face is partially obscured from view. Plus, the face and eye detection both work shooting video as well. It's simply a badass autofocus system that completely crushes the autofocus system of the Nikon cameras that I shot over the years. Now, in fact, the autofocus system beats the system on any camera that I've owned, period, including the Sony a6400, 6500. Now, I did have the original Sony A7R back in the day, as well as the Panasonic GH5. Now, I know people that have the Sony A7R4 and the A7S III can give Canon a run for its money with the autofocus department, but I haven't tested those cameras, so I can't confirm that firsthand. But what I do know is that Canon rocked it with the autofocus system here. It's absolutely worth the price of admission. And what's funny about this is prior to moving over to Canon, I kept hearing people talking about, or photographers talking about Canon color science, Canon color science. And after I took a closer look at it, that ended up being one of the larger reasons why I decided to move over to Canon was that color science. I think Canon cameras have the best colors on the market. I often find myself not having to do much or any color grading on my videos because I like the native colors right out of the camera so much. Now, before the comments get all lit up down below, I'm not saying that Canon color science is the most accurate. I know a lot of the folks will say that Sony wins that award. But at the end of the day, for me, Canon colors are the most pleasing to my eye. Now, whether they're the most accurate or not, I think a lot of people would agree with me on that point. Now, when I go out and take photos, the R5 is my primary camera for shooting stills, but it's my B-roll camera for video work. Why is that? Well, probably it has to do more with the R6 video capabilities more than something the R5 can't do. Now, while the R6 doesn't offer 8K video or 4K at 120p, its 4K 24p and 4K 60p video look far better than the R5's downsampled 8K footage. In fact, if you compare the 4K 60 full frame footage from both cameras side by side, the R6 simply looks better. Now, I think a big part of the fact is that the R6 offers better low light performance. Even further, I find that the R6 video to be generally brighter than what I get from the R5. Now, a while back, I did this ridiculous comparison of the iPhone 11 Pro, 12 Pro, the EOS R5, and the R6. But one of the serious takeaways from that video was the R6 video was far brighter than the R5, even when using the same camera settings and the same exact lens. Anyways, that's why I use the R5 as my B-roll camera. It's a monster for still images, but I think the R6 is better equipped to be a video camera. Now, I know I've mentioned in the title my 9 things that you need to know about the R5, but I need to address the elephant in the room, and that is the overheating. Now, the fact of the matter is, guys, this video I've had on my editorial calendar for about a month and a half to do, and you know, life got in the way and I kind of pushed it ahead. And it's kind of a good thing because had I recorded this video a month and a half ago, I would have said that this camera has never overheated on me. And the fact is, we were shooting a video on the differences between the R5 and Sony's A1. And during that video, this camera overheated for the first time. And it's funny because I talked about this a number of times that while people in a lot of the press have talked about this camera overheating quite a bit, I had never up until that time had this camera overheated. And I always update all the firmware when Canon sends it out and never had any issues. Well, Murphy's Law. I'm talking about the Sony, talking about Sony's fan and the cooling, this and that, and this camera about the 16 mark in that video overheated. And what's funny about that, well, not funny, is about 2 minutes afterward, the R6, which we're recording on right now, overheated on me. I've had more problems with the R6 overheating, but this one, and this still to date, it was the only time that this camera overheated, which was weird because it was 16 minutes and it wasn't a hot day. It was, I think in my office, it was the low 70s. So just to be known, if you look at a lot of folks out there that have the R5, some people praise it and talk about it never overheating. Others talk about it being a horrible nuisance of how bad this thing overheats. I've had it overheat on me once. I've gotten many videos where it's upwards of 20-25 minutes and not have it overheating. I've had it warmer in my studio and had it not overheat. So it's strange that 16 minutes, cooler day, and it overheated. I don't know why it did that day versus other days when it was warmer in here and I had the camera running longer. Anyway, I wanted to be upfront with you guys that I've had mine overheat once, and that's something that you really need to consider if you're going to pick up this camera, or for that matter, the R6, that they're obviously, you know, there's a little bit of an overheating issue with some cameras versus others. And again, I wish I had an exact reason why it overheated on me, but I do not. But one time isn't too bad. Hopefully, there's rumors coming around the corner that is stating that Canon's working on a firmware update that might lighten up the files in here. Obviously, that's just a rumor, so we can cross fingers that Canon's working on ways to get this camera to perform better when recording, or the heat dissipation. And with that said, friend, you now know a little bit more about the R5. So what do you think? Is this a camera that's going to work well for your purposes? Let me know down below in the comments. All right, let's wrap things up by talking about our prizes that we have available in our current giveaway. Nomadic Travel Pack, a ViewSonic 16-inch VG 1655 portable monitor, and of course, the $100 Adorama gift card. As always, entering the giveaway is really simple. Step 1, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Step 2, leave a comment below. In fact, the more of our videos that you watch and leave a comment on, the more chances that you have to win. So get watching some of our other videos and leave some comments. Step 3, register on Photography Talk and introduce yourself in the form. Now, if you introduce yourself during one of the last giveaways, friend, you're still eligible to win. But as we keep saying, hell, swing on over. We would love to see what's going on with you. And that is it. For complete details on the giveaway, including how to register on the site and how to say hello in the forum, check out the description below. Good luck. Well, there you go, guys. Another fun video put together and finished here. Now, as a photographer, speaking to a photographer, I know how it is to get out there when you're searching for the right camera and you want to be able to gather as much information, and sometimes people leave they sugarcoat some of these reviews out there. So I'm trying to be upfront with you guys on as much that I like about this camera, but also letting you know what I don't like. And as I mentioned earlier, there's legitimately very few things that I dislike about this camera, but the few things that are there, I hope that sharing these with you here today are going to help you make a more educated decision if this is the right camera for you. Now, guys, it's that time of the video where I'm going to be jumping off, and before I do so, you know I gotta ask you if this video was helpful, if it was entertaining to you, hit that like button down below. If you're currently not subscribed, brother, we would love to have you part of this family. So hit that subscribe button, and hell, while you're at it, hit that bell, smash it, kick it, do whatever you need to, so therefore you're notified each time that we come out with a new video. I'm going to be jumping out, and so you get out there, stay healthy, and create your best shot.